Welcome to the Perfect Plan podcast with Matt Schiff as we get ready to kick off 2025. It's crazy, Matt, to think that 2024 is behind us and a new year is upon us. And I know one of the things that we wanted to do, especially for this first episode of the Perfect Plan podcast, is set a little bit of a roadmap of what we're going to discuss this year. I can tell you, as someone that has, had the privilege of working with you this last year, it has been awesome to, connect with, learn about those that are in your network in this financial space, what their feedback has been, the value that's been there for them with the guests that you brought on in 2024 for this podcast. And so it was exciting, to use 2024 as like a foundation with this vision of yours of, creating this perfect plan. But like all things, right, they need to grow, they need to evolve. And so, we've had some meetings over the course of December to talk about where you want to take this podcast in 2025. And it's exciting. And that's what we're here to talk about today. So Matt, it's good to see you. How you doing?
Nice to see you, John. Happy New Year. Yeah, a lot of things went on in 2024, especially like the last 2 months were a total whirlwind. What was crazy about it is, we were together in New Orleans for the IBC study group, which was absolutely one of the, highlights of my year. But at the same time, it was also one of those life-changing moments that on the same day that we started the meeting, one of our past guests, my mother, and I'm going to give a little tear here. She passed away on November 9th. So that kind of gives you a little perspective on things. And on top of that, I gotta say, unfortunately, we're taping the day after the death of Nancy's father. So, one of the things is at the age, what I call between the 45 and 65 age, you're a tweener. The tweeners, you have your kids who you're trying to raise, your parents who are getting older, and you're dealing with both ends. And as I say, you're of the age, unfortunately, where your parents are passing away and many of your friends are going through the same things. So you get to commiserate and empathize with them, but it's not the best thing. It's better to have the bar and bat mitzvahs, the weddings, the births. Those are the ones you want to celebrate, but it also reminds you the true lion, the Lion King, the story of Circle of Life. It all comes back all about family. And that's what we do every day. It hurts. You're reminded of those things. And that's what the perfect plan is. Your perfect plan is the one that no matter what comes up, we've got you set from your financial standpoint. And that means that, yes, we'll have accountants that will bring in to talk to you. We'll have attorneys to draft the right documents. We'll have TPAs to manage a 401k or a executive benefit plan. We'll have carriers to offer products. But really, it comes down to if you're that $50,000 a year kid who just got out of college, who's just barely getting by, paying down student loans, trying to get a car, oh my God, what's insurance? I don't want to pay insurance. God, property and casualty insurance, my auto insurance is through the roof. And the first thing when I was a 19-year-old was all insurance or agents are crooks. And I'm putting it out there. Yes, all insurance agents are crooks. The reason why is the problem is they're not in control of the rates most of the time. And unfortunately, we're living today as there are wildfires out in Hollywood and LA that are devastating thousands and thousands of homes. And it's thousands of homes of the highest income earners in the United States. What do you think that's going to do to the insurance industry on the property and casualty side? Now, unfortunately, and we do work with other partners, we do have the ability to take care of our clients on the property and casualty side. But what we focus on is on anything that has a heartbeat, a life. So we insure those that are individuals. We actually insure cats, dogs. We have pet insurance. But what we specialize at SEB is anything with a heartbeat. We have teammates, other partners who can handle your commercial property insurance, which is right now in LA, it may be very difficult to get. I know it, and I know in Florida, if you talk to Florida residents, if you're listening to us right now, and I highly recommend that during the podcast, during the next year, Don't just listen to what I am saying and my guests. Engage us. Make a post. Set a question. We'll respond back to you. Our media will be on Instagram. It'll be on LinkedIn. It'll be on Facebook, but it'll also be posted on our website and then also on our YouTube channel. I highly recommend that you engage there because we'll share other people's stuff like Tom Hegna, who has great stuff on how to become a millionaire if you're in your 20s, or paycheck and playcheck in retirement. Or you have Joe Jordan. Joe Jordan is talking about save early. If you're in, he said to us a long time ago, well, I've known him a long time, so I could say 30, 40 years ago, he said a long time ago, if I knew now what I knew then, I would have done things differently. And the reason why is I would have put my money into my 401k in 1974 when they started it. I'd have $1 million more in my retirement right now. And he was 73 on our podcast.
Yep.
That's just one example. Those are the tidbits that you'll learn about on our podcast. And hopefully during the next year, when we bring on some accountants, which I will bring on, we bring on other speakers. I think Tom will come back. He'd like to come back and have an open dialogue, and some other really cool people. You can pick up some very useful snippets that'll allow you to, what I call, set the building blocks as the foundation if you're young, fill in the holes in the gaps if you're older, and protect you from all of life's what ifs along the way. So with that in mind, John, what's on your mind about the next year? Because these are just little things. I mean, already we're traveling next week. We're supposed to be in LA to visit with advisors and clients. And actually, I'm on a board advisory board where we're going to be talking about the direction of that company in San Diego. Then a week after that, we're going to be speaking at the Forum 400 down in San Antonio, where the top basically 200 or 300 producers at this time are members of what they call FinSecca, which is the Financial Security Standards Board for the insurance industry. And we lobby on behalf of individuals to protect their financial security. And the Forum 400 shares all of the top ideas on wealth transfer, business planning, and financial planning at all levels. So I was very honored to speak on Monday, the 20th there. Then later in the year, we've got the the FinSecca Advanced Planning meeting in May. We then have the IBC back in November. And along the way, we have a number of other industry meetings such as MDRT in June and Top of the Table in October.
It's a busy year, Matt. And I think, back to your question, I thought that we would maybe reflect back a little bit on 2024 and then set the stage with some of the things that you mentioned for 2025 and just a little bit of, insight. I think one of the biggest things that I learned in 2024 with our work together and is this, the landscape of business owners is changing, right? I mean, certainly you have business owners, like you mentioned, 45, 55, 60, 65, and 70 that are in a certain stage of their career. But we've also had, which I think is a positive, an explosion of entrepreneurs in the last, 3 to 5 years that are growing their businesses. And as you know, Matt, as an entrepreneur, when your head is down and you're looking to grow your business, you're focused on the business. That's how you get to, get that thing off the ground or what have you. And one day you wake up, maybe it's a polite push from a colleague or somebody like yourself or a family member that says, there are some things and some aspects of your business that you might want to spend some time and do some planning, like you mentioned, whether it be insurance or retirement or whatever the case may be. And so I think, whether it be your point about your family or some of the things that we've just seen, in the country this past year, there are times that you just cannot prepare for when it comes to, outside things happening in our lives. But what you can do is you can take the time when you look at your business, you look at your personal financial situation, and you can take the time to plan. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I took away from last year and a lot of the guests that you had on is the importance of, even when life is busy, take the time, put that time aside if you're a business owner to do these important things, because you never know when things are going to happen. And it was an absolute pleasure to be able to have your mother on early in the year last year. I remember you saying specifically how important it was to you to document a lot of these conversations. As you know, Matt, traditionally over the years in this media space, especially on YouTube, there hasn't been a lot of financial shows, right? The financial world wasn't focused on, it wasn't highlighted for a lot of different reasons, for regulation reasons and things like that. And I think that's one of the things I took away from conversations you had with your network last year is they appreciated you, they appreciated your guests talking about these things that don't always get talked about in the social media space, right? And as we know, that's where a lot of people's attention is. And so I'm encouraged about that. And I thought it said a lot about you and your business and your commitment to want to document this. And I really took a lot from you saying, how great would it be to have, your mother on camera, your father on camera. And we did that last year. And so I think that's kind of the reflection as I look back at last year that I take away, from that.
You remind me about one of the people that was at the IBC meeting who is, as I say, shouting into the wind sometimes on social media. Peter was down at IBC, Peter
Yep.
and Jay, and I think he should be one of our first guests. He's working out of Mexico right now, which is one of the unique things about being an entrepreneur. Um, as Peter says, he's a reformed attorney who ran a skincare company in Boston and now is working with his husband in the financial services world to help market and also build out brands
Mhm.
of companies, as well as work with high net worth individuals on, all the stuff that's product, finance, tax related. Real, I wouldn't call it gimmickry, but I call it um, tax savvy financial planning.
Mhm.
They're really good at it. But Peter is one of those people like a Larry Ribka, who I think Larry would be one of the best people on this podcast because Larry is a proponent of product knowledge.
Mhm.
And he talks about how products are sold, why you should be wary, and why you should work with either a fiduciary or somebody who works like a fiduciary in the financial space. I have always been, because I'm a CLU, and that's one of the things, there are financial designations that people don't understand. And the designation space is like, okay, well, I just got a ABC designation. Oh, well, it took me 2 hours to do it, and I'm now accredited. It doesn't mean anything if it doesn't have any financial backing behind it. Like everybody has heard about the CFP. The reason why they know about the CFP is because the CFP board has made it their mission to market it, to tell you about it, to explain to you why the CFP is important. Do you understand the difference between a CFP and a CFA? A CFP is somebody who plans for an individual. A CFA is an analyst who works for a Thomson Reuters, who does the financial analysis for each of the companies and the rating agencies, or somebody who's a CFO who's in a company who wants to analyze their books, etc. Now, a CLU, huh? I have a clue. Well, that means I'm a chartered life underwriter. It means I'm versed in every side of the insurance business. And I'm going to say this. Most people, when they say insurance, they go, huh? Blank. Lights are on. I just don't want to hear it. I mean, I sent out an email yesterday after my client says, well, didn't we say we were going to pay it for 10 years and this and that? I'm like, okay, there are all sorts of moving levers in
Mhm.
insurance, and everybody doesn't understand what. And we talked about it. Well, what if I press this button or that button? We were joking about it before we got on the Zoom. That's what insurance is to most people. They're like, I have no idea what I'm pressing here. So
Yeah.
you need somebody who has a CLU. A CHFC is the equivalent, but on the lesser side of the CFP. It was the American College's way of getting a financial planning designation that took 10 different courses to do it. Not one, not a 2 hour course. This is like literally 48 hours worth of
Mhm.
full in depth. And then you have to do every year certification that you've done You kept up your education with the states, plus you have to do ethics, plus you have to do all that other stuff. That is somebody who's ethical, who you should be working with. Forget me, but if you're working with anybody, that's what you should be doing.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think that's one of the things that we talked about as we look at the podcast this year is kind of breaking down this financial industry and I'll say demystifying it, Matt. Like when we look at kind of where the world has gone the last couple of years, there definitely has been more of a drive and more of a push for there to be transparency in the financial space. And I think little things like that, I think educating business owners and that of how this financial world works, all those ins and outs, it empowers them to ask better questions. And ultimately, you and I have talked about this. How many times are there scenarios where business owners did have the opportunity to sit down and build their perfect plan or do the things that they wanted to do? Maybe they didn't do that because there was a lack of knowledge or they were concerned or they had been burned in the past or whatever the case may be. So I know that that's something that you're very passionate about. And I think that segues us into 2025
Right.
and where we want to go with this. And so one of the things that we were talking about is that if you're someone that's a business owner and you have understood what I guess what we could call the calendar of business, like the tax dates and the retirement, plan dates, and when you have to, deposit things. I mean, all those things for the most part are understood in a certain demographic based on where you are in your business. But how many young business owners, Matt, are out there that, like we said, have just been grinding away? And I know that's one of the things that we want to focus on this year in this podcast is educating that younger generation of business owners and having you set the stage of what is the
Right.
business calendar. So talk a little bit about that and kind of where you want to go with that in 25.
Well, we're recording today. It's January 9th. Okay. This video will probably hit sometime in the next week or so. So it might hit before January 15th or after January
It
15th.
will. It will.
If you're hitting right around January 15th, you should have already made your quarterly filing by now. If you do quarterly filing or estimated taxes, you need to have it in by January 15th for 2024's tax year, the last quarter. Otherwise, you're late on your taxes for 2024. Secondly, if you're a business owner and you're a new business owner, and I don't say a young business owner because new business owner might be 20, he might be 60. Remember, Ray Kroc started McDonald's in his late 50s or almost 60. Okay, some of the best entrepreneurs are ones who have worked for 30 years doing what they're doing well and said, you know what, I've finally built up a little bit of a nest egg, and they're now doing initially their side hustle and they're trying to get it ready. And then they go full time and become an entrepreneur. That's what I normally see in today's world. In fact, I see so much of it in today's world because of COVID. People are working remotely. You can have 3 screens, you can have Zooms, you can do. I now meet people all over the country. I used to spend thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours flying, getting sick on airplanes and saying, okay, I can only meet with 5 or 6 people a week if I was in 5 different cities. Now I can have 5 different meetings a day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's incredible. That's a major change.
Mm-hmm.
You go back to the 1800s. How did we get anywhere? It was, the industrial boom in the 1800s in London. You had all these coal machines. Everything was building. Today, if you looked at that versus today, you're like, wow, it's instantaneous.
Yeah.
But the problem is, even though it's instantaneous, there is a cycle like you were talking about. And that cycle goes, okay, first quarter of the year, what do I have? Second quarter of the year, what do I have? Third, fourth. And in this first quarter, it's quarterly filings, W-2s, 1099s all need to be filed by the end of January. March 15th, need to get your business tax filing done. Or if you're not done, put yourself on extension. Then 30 days later, here comes your personal taxes. That's why by May 15th, the accountant's going, I'm on vacation. I'm taking a month off. I've been around since the end of December trying to make sure everybody was ready to go. You didn't take advantage of me before the year. Now I've been trying to clean everything up until now. So now I'm checked out. I'm gone by May 15th. Because when we come back in September, I've got to make sure all my extensions that were done on the business are done. Same thing in October, as well as if you have a retirement plan, you need to have your 5,500s done by October.
Mhm.
And then
Yep.
and then you have your quarterlies. Remember, if you did your quarterlies and you're doing estimateds, you need to have them every 15th, April 15th, July 15th, okay? And then October 15th, and then lastly, January. Those are
Yeah.
the dates. Besides that, and excuse me for rubbing my eye here, I just got an itch. It's extremely dry. Um, just to show you that this is a real, down to earth podcast. And I'm sitting here, and it's not a recording. Um, with regards to planning for yourself, when do you need to have a retirement plan in place? If you're in the first quarter and you say, oh my God, did I miss last year? No, you didn't miss last year for an IRA or even a SEP IRA if you're a business owner. You can do that until you file your tax returns. That's the good news. So by March 15th, if you're an individual owner, you've just started the business, you made some good money, but you don't want to take it, you don't want to have taxes, you want to stuff it away, talk to your accountant, make sure you can put in the maximum amount you can. The tax law for that, if I remember correctly, in this year is $23,000 in a
Mhm.
SEP IRA. And again, check the numbers, they keep going up. There's this tax schedule that we will post on our page, but the numbers each year, again, adjust for inflation. In this year, specifically in your HSA, if you have the ability or had an HSA in 2024 and didn't make your full contribution of $9,300, do a makeup. You can do that until you file your taxes as well. Just
Yep.
to get you some what I call cash flow that you're going to spend anyway with regards to medical expenses in 2025 because you're making a deduction for 2024. It's a nice little tax savings.
Yep.
Same thing with profit sharing. Your business, if you're a business owner and you have a 401k, you're going to have to make your profit sharing contribution in the next 30 days.
Mhm.
And you'll make it based upon the cross testing that you're doing this first quarter. And again, your TPA will give you that information. You're not required to know this, but these are the highlights that your TPA should be giving you. If they aren't, give us a call. We'll get you in touch with somebody who can help you.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
We are your financial quarterback. If you have one person that you trust, that you feel comfortable with, who knows where I say the bodies are buried, that's great. It's the day that you hand that trust over, you need to know that that person's going to be there for you.
Mhm.
It can take years to get there. You should vet them. If it's a family friend who said, oh, well, why don't you go to that person? I've heard, well, no, I don't want to do that. No, some people say, I want to do that. Other people say, you know what? It's a personal friend. I don't want them to know everything about me. And so therefore they go to somebody they don't know at all.
Yeah.
Very personal decision. I've seen
Mhm.
it all. And there is no right answer. It's a personal feeling.
Mhm.
Understand that. But those personal feelings, every single one of those personal feelings, if you talk to every single one of the advisors that we've had on, they would say, do something. Don't put the head in the sand. Make sure you've got your financial building blocks, 1, 2, 3, 4, in place. Then as you grow, add a little bit more to it, add a little bit more to it, add a little bit more to it. I mean, I know an insurance agent, and I know a lot of them in 34 years of doing this, but one whom I really, really, really respected, and still he's got a bout of cancer that he's dealing with, which I hope he recovers from very quickly. Top-notch producer with Mass Mutual, and one of the things he used to tell me was every time that I got a bonus, I wanted to buy something that wasn't a depreciating asset. I wanted to buy an appreciating asset because again, we're spenders. We want, every person says, I want to spend, I want to buy, I want to do this. And he said, delayed gratification was the other thing that he liked. He said, I
Mhm.
like to buy and get delayed gratification. So if I put something away, I'll be able to get something else down the road.
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, wow. So he started doing that partially with his insurance. So why did he buy permanent insurance? Because now he had cash, he got delayed gratification. Now he
Mhm.
had money down the road. He kept doing that again. Before you knew it, it's like buying real estate. He then had this rental home, he had another rental home, he had another, and you hear about the real estate moguls. How do they build their empire? They've done it slowly. They put
Yeah.
a little piece at a time aside. They never bit off more than they could chew, and they did it with a plan. And that's why I love the idea, and it took us years to get there, but we've heard it from the business owners. I didn't plan to fail. I just failed to plan.
Well,
And
and is it safe to say, Matt, that this year, at least, the last thing I wanted to ask you here in a second is who this podcast is for, right? Because we really want to establish that, and we'd love to have you, subscribe to the Perfect Plan, and all of that. But I wanted to ask you, when we talked about the two goals for this year, I feel like it's education, right? Continuing to educate business owners on this world, demystifying this financial world, so they have the confidence to make these decisions, and a lot of things that you're going to talk about and your guests will talk about. And the second thing is, can we maybe put a little flag out there that moving people to do things, get things done, maybe things you put off in 2024, utilizing this year as a means to be able to get those things done, check those boxes. And like you mentioned, get one step closer to getting a lot of these things done instead of, looking in the rearview mirror. So, I mean, is that kind of a good direction to go this year for the, for
it
the
would be
podcast?
great. It would be great. I think one of the other things is one of the podcasts, maybe what we do is kind of dissect some financial instruments as an education,
Yeah.
because we'll never sell any product or a
Yep.
service over these podcasts. That's not what we're trying to do. But there's so much misinformation, as Peter talks about, that if without, in the absence of truth or an absence of another voice, everybody only hears the one voice that's being heard. And
Yep.
that one voice, and again, I said this to somebody the other day. If I say the word infinite banking system to somebody, and if you're a YouTuber, you're immediately going to go looking for it, and it's going to come up with thousands of videos. The infinite banking system is a self-funding of a bank using your own insurance policy. The concept is great. The way it's marketed is incorrect. So beware of the information that's out there and what's being told, as Larry Ripka would say. Caveat emptor, and really dissect it and make sure that, oh, are they explaining all of this? Because there are a lot of great things about an indexed universal life. There's a lot of great things about a variable universal life. They're scary if you don't know them. And a whole life is a black box you put money into. No one explains that one.
Mhm.
So Susie Orman says, buy term and invest the difference. I know how to invest. So again, it's simple, stupid. If you don't understand it, you're not going to do it. And that's what we hope to provide. As simple
Awesome.
as that.
Yeah, I love that. And then the last thing I wanted to ask you before we wrap this kickoff episode is, who is this podcast for? If you could establish that, who's going to benefit most from watching this?
That's the third time you asked that question. And I've avoided it all times until now. The reason why I avoid an age for who this podcast is for is we're going to cover literally everything from the newborn baby to the point of death. There is so much that goes on that the individual who isn't even ready to start a business, if he's trying to learn about what I need to have in place, this is a good place to learn. If you're in college, I was talking to an intern literally 2 days ago, and he was he was an intern because he was a senior in college, and he's like, where am I going? What am I going to do? This is all the stuff I've done. And I have to say, this kid is one of the brightest people I've ever met. He really thinks things through. He knows where he's going, and he's got some great opportunities. Comes from a great family too. Family has a great business. And he's saying, Matt, if you were me, based upon what I have done, what should I be doing? That's what this podcast is about.
Right.
He asked me, I can go in all these different directions. I said, be a sponge. if nothing else, if you're young, be a sponge. But one of the things that I've heard through some of the studies is that the difference between the baby boomers and the Gen Zs, because there's a gap in there, is the baby boomers grew up during a time when everything was about the respect. You automatically fit in the caste system and you went up and down. And everybody said, okay, based upon my age, based upon what I know, you will listen to me. And today, the mantra is I'm an adult. I should be heard. I have a right to be heard. My feelings are important. And I should be an equal to you no matter what your age is, no matter what I know. In some ways, it's good. There are some parts of that that's right. But there are some that, as they say, if I knew then what I know now, the gap of 34 years, it's literally our life is a bunch of choices that we make. And this podcast is for that person that if they're at 65 or 70 and they're worried about living for the next 30 years because longevity is occurring,
Mm-hmm.
you need to know what products you need in place, not an asset allocation. When you're 20, you need to know what products, but you need to have a balance of an asset allocation that protects you in case of all markets. And you have a long time. If you buy a stock when you're 22 years old and it's the next Nvidia, Microsoft, Apple, and you buy 100 shares of it, never touch it and don't think about it. That'll do more for you than anything else you'll ever do.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why is 100 shares for about a $4,000, $3,000 investment could make you millions. And I'm talking like double digit millions.
Mm-hmm.
If you just set it and forget it, if you're young, those are the types of tidbits you'll get.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited about this. And I think the last thing is, you're always up to date on what's going on in this industry. So I think one aspect of every episode, we're going to do, two of these a month for now. And then the goal is to, hopefully do more, but you'll be able to tune in, twice a month right here on the Perfect Plan channel on YouTube. And, Matt, I know that you want to, bring to the audience things that are going on in the space. Information is abundant, but it is very, valuable to get it through the lens of someone that is been in this world, spent time. There's family lineage with you. I mean, this is kind of what you've lived for your entire life. Plus, I think what was most impressive from my side last year is your network, and I think that's what's most exciting as well. Is this is not just here's a piece of information in the financial space that maybe Matt's learned about, but what is that through the lens of some of these other professionals that you work with, what's their take on it. And so that's one of the things that we want to definitely add to this podcast, all in an effort to add value. And as Matt said, help you as a business owner build a perfect plan. So,
And yes, and I would say in just closing, that's the best part of this. My network is nationwide. So if you're desperate for somebody who's local, please feel free to reach out to me and say, hey, Matt, do you have somebody that you trust implicitly local that I can work with?
yep.
Because we're in the process of building out truly a network of 100 firms across the country. Right now, we've got about 30 of them that we work with that we trust implicitly and that we have vetted on your behalf. So please feel free to give us a call.
Awesome. Well, Matt, I'm excited about this. And we will have everybody, all of the anything that gets discussed on every episode. We'll make sure to put that in the description below, as well as a link to Matt's website. And I'm excited about this year, Matt. It's gonna be a lot of fun. All right. See you
Love it.
soon.